Well. You're listening to Gloves Off with Professor Buitrón. Alright then, I may say words on point, straightforward. No jibber jabber, everybody forward. Issues, facts and solution. Get it at Gloves Off with Professor Buitrón. Alright, what other thing is a revolution? Get it on point with Professor Buitrón. Gloves Off, no nonsense issues, politics, community. A better men for Laredo. Gloves Off, a revolutionary show with everything that you need to know. With Professor Buitrón. Watch ya!
The following political paid advertisements do not reflect the political opinions of the program or its associates. Any political campaign or candidate who wishes to purchase advertising can do so. Advertising is open to all on behalf of Gloves Off.
We're back at you in Gloves Off. I'm Professor Buitrón, and today we have one of our pillars of our community, US Congressman Henry Cuellar. How are we doing, Congressman? You doing good?
Well, I'm doing very well. I hope you're doing well, your family well, and states healthy.
Yeah, everybody's staying healthy. Everybody's, doing the best, undergoing this pandemic that we have. And I think it's going to get better. I think it'll get better.
It will. It will. Look, the last time we went through something like this was 102 years ago in 1918 with that flu that we had. It killed millions of people. We haven't seen that yet, and if you look at where we were 100 plus years ago and now, we got modern medicine, we got technology, we got things that have saved a lot of lives. Weeks ago, as you know, we talked about the new trial 3 testing of the vaccines, including Laredo and other parts of my area that have started. We got a lot of hope for different companies that are going to be coming up with some vaccines and treatments. So with that, I think we'll be able to get out of this. But what's happening is that if you look at how those viruses jump from certain animals and then jump over to human beings, we got to understand that we got to look at what cause is, because it's not the first time we've had this type of virus. We've seen Ebola, we've seen other things that have hit the our general population. So we got to look at that and just be ready for this. But I have hope for vaccines. Hopefully by the end of the year, we'll say okay to a vaccine. And then we already put money in Congress, Paul, to get ready to do mass production, because once you get a vaccine, how do you get that to over 300 million individuals in the US? How do you get that to other parts of the world? Because you're not talking about hundreds, you're talking about millions, and then talking about billions for that. So, the mass production is something that we're looking at least to start off with the US.
Absolutely. Well, Congressman, the last time we spoke, we were talking about small businesses and how it affected a lot of small businesses, not only in Laredo, throughout the United States, but especially here in Laredo. It saddens us because many small businesses are no longer going to be alive after this. They're not going to be turning on their lights, opening their doors. Is there any help coming towards small businesses?
And you're right. Look, small businesses, and I've been a small business owner myself. I'm an attorney by profession. I'm an educator, but I've been a small business owner. Look, it's hard. I mean, you're a small business owner, and look, you got to worry about overhead, personnel, taxes, paying taxes, and how do you make the payroll? It's hard. Normally, it's hard to run a business. So on top of that, you add the pandemic, and it's just a very stressful time. There will be some people that unfortunately will not be able to survive this. It's very unfortunate because some of those people sometimes put in their hard-earned monies, their savings, and it's unfortunate that some of them are going to be, going under. But we want to try to help, and this is why we put in billions of dollars under the, the PPP, the payroll protection plan, to make sure that they're getting that type of money. The assistance. Now, as you know, we put in billions of dollars, but when you look at doing that across the country, we're running out, and this is why right now, the House and the Speaker Pelosi is negotiating with the White House to come up with a bipartisan agreement on this, because we got to send stimulus checks to the individuals, to the families that help them out. We got to get and to the counties and to the universities and to the schools, because right now the revenues are not there. But I would say this, Paul, because at some time in the future, once we get over this, we're trying to help cities and counties and schools that don't have the resources. The federal government is providing literally not billions, but trillions of dollars, and it's all going into the credit card. So sometime in the future, we got to talk about how we pay for this credit card, because we've added literally trillions of dollars into the debt. But we got to do this right now because we got to survive. And the other thing, Paul, as you know, what we're seeing here on the border is there's a lot of people that depend on the Mexican purchaser. So the question is, so Paul, what do we do? We want to make sure we don't have any more coronavirus spreading. And if anybody comes across the bridge, we got to make sure that they're safe. So you look at the safety of the individual, but then the health of the economy. What the Homeland Security Secretary is doing is allowing only what he calls essential crossings. Anybody involved in trade. If you look at the trade community here in Laredo, we're back to normal numbers, 8,000 crossing each way. We're back to normal. What's not normal is what they call non-essential. I disagree with that term, non-essential, because to some people, those people are essential to the downtown businesses. They come in and spend monies for hotels, retail, restaurants and all that. In fact, before this pandemic hit, Paul, there were over 18 million Mexicanos that were coming to the United States and spend over $19 billion, restaurants, hotels, stores and all that, over $19 billion. So think about this. We started putting the crossing restrictions in March. So that means over $1 billion every month we're losing from that. But I'll tell you one more thing, Paul. Let me ask you this question and see if you, and then I'll let you continue. What's the difference between a Mexicano or a Canadian that crosses the land port or somebody that crosses into the United States by airplane? The border crossings only apply to land bridges. But if you come by ship or you come by airplane, you can come in. So that means if somebody's in Nuevo Laredo and they try to cross, they won't let them. But if they fly, they won't be able to cross over to our side. But if they go to Monterrey and catch a plane, they can fly to San Antonio or Houston. What's the difference on that? So those are the things that I've asked the secretary about that. And by the way, I've given the secretary a proposal to do enhanced screening at the border, because we have no plan except, we're going to close it for another 30 days, another 30 days. We got to have a strategy. And I've given him a proposal that hopefully they'll take a look at for setting up at least some pilot programs.
Absolutely. Because those, I mean, if you look at downtown, it's empty. I mean, we need to pick it back up, or else we're gonna end up with ghost towns everywhere, and it's it's kind of
Yeah.
sad. There's another. I'm gonna ask this question because it came out yesterday. We've always had a problem with immigration, and you bringing in 8 judges for immigration. Thank you for doing that, because that's something that the can is no longer being kicked. The can already stopped here and said, you know what, we have to do something about it. How do these attorneys, or who's going to pick the judges? How does that come of age? How does that happen for the judges? Are they being brought in out of state, or how is it going?
Well, first of all, why, I've been pushing for judges. I've had it already since I started pushing for this, 315 new immigration judges nationwide. On this appropriations that we passed a week ago, I added another 100. Once it becomes final, that's 415 new immigration judges. The problem is you might have judges, a lot of them in San Antonio and Houston and Dallas, some in the Valley, some in El Paso, but Laredo doesn't have any. So what I've been pushing is to get immigration courts and judges down here in Laredo, instead of, because if you ask any of the immigration attorneys here in Laredo, they'll tell you that they have to travel to San Antonio, or they do it by video conference. So I want to have hometown judges here. So what they have done is they have already asked, internally they've sent out a request for any of the judges and say, hey, anybody wants to move to Laredo, because in the summer of 2021, we're going to have 8 courts in Laredo. So without mentioning names, I know some of those, whether they're in San Francisco, in the Valley, in San Antonio, they're from Laredo, and they're going to want to come back to Laredo. Then if they don't have enough judges coming back to Laredo, then the monies I've added for 100 new judges, they can hire judges. And the way they do this is they put a general application with the jobs.gov, and then they get screened, and then they get sent to Washington and the Office of Immigration. They will be the ones that select the judges on that. So that's important because I want to have judges here. And if you bring 8 judges here, think about this. The folks here will have their day in court faster.
Absolutely.
Number one. Number two, you bring in 8 judges. It's not only and those judges get paid pretty good money, $170,000, $180,000 a year. They also bring support staff. So they're going to be hiring other people to be part of the support staff. And then, of course, the Department of Justice, Homeland has to have people to handle that. So there could be other jobs to be created. So this will create a list of new jobs here. But the most important thing is we'll address the backlog. There are 1.2 million cases where they're waiting. The average stay is about 753 days to wait. In Texas, it's actually higher, about 794 days to wait for a court hearing. The backlog is 1.2 million cases. And on top of that, 189,000 cases are just here. And I'm an attorney, and I've always was taught a day delayed is a day without justice. And I want to allow those folks that are coming in an opportunity before a judge. The judge will say, if you stay, it says you stay, that person stays. If that judge says that person doesn't meet the requirements, you got to go back, then they go back. But at least they got their day in court.
Absolutely. And that's going to be very beneficial for Laredo, really, for this area, South Texas. I want to thank you for doing that. And
thank you.
Once more, thank you for continuing to make Laredo proud. And also, let's bring Laredo back to where it was, #1 in everything. And I think all of us together will do that.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, Paul. I'm really trying to do whatever I can as a member of Congress. I'm the only Democrat in the House Appropriations in Texas, and actually for the surrounding states, I'm the only Democrat. So I take my job very seriously, and this is why in the Laredo area I was able to get not only this 8 judges that will be coming in, Got about $28 million to build a air marine hangar at the base, and hopefully we can have a bigger campus. When they built that air marine campus, it will be much bigger than what they're doing right now. That means they're going to bring mechanics for the helicopters or the planes. They're going to have more pilots. They're going to have more either planes or helicopters. That means more gas that they have to do, more pilots and all that, create more jobs here in Laredo. By the way, Air Marine needs people, so if anybody wants to apply and fly, Air Marine is hiring, so go apply for that part of Homeland. We also got the authorization for $52 million to work on the Chacon Creek from Lake Casablanca all the way down to the Rio Grande. Think about that, what that means for our area. $52 million to fix up the Chacon Creek. The last time we added money was, I think, back in 2000, when I had just started, 2005, 2006, added $3.5 million. And as you know, there's some trails in a particular area of the Chacon Creek. That was only with $3.5 million. Imagine $52 million. You know, it's going to help the people that, you know, when it floods, you know, they'll be helped so they're not, homes are not flooded. But we're going to put trails and bikes and walking trails from all the way from the Lake Casablanca to all the way up to the Rio Grande. It's going to change that. I've seen that. I've put millions of dollars in San Antonio. If we can do it in San Antonio, well, darn it, we can do it here in Laredo also.
Absolutely, absolutely. And those are the visions that we need. And that's what we all have to unite together to produce. And that's basically it. You know, thank you for doing that. Thank you.
Oh, one more thing, Paul. So think about the other thing. I've been working with Kansas City Southern, working with them. They got their permit to build a second bridge, or a second rail bridge. They are going to pay for that. But the other part is because they want to have trains going north and south. But the other thing that we're working on, and this is going to be probably one of the biggest projects in Laredo if we can do this, and I feel that we'll be able to do it. It's going to take a public-private investment. And that means that we want to have the trains are coming in from Mexico. They will go up and they will have a flyover and they will be on top. So that means we can have as many trains as we want to. It's going to increase the number of trains, but they're not going to block the streets of Laredo like they do now. They're not going to block the streets, and they'll be all on a flyover. That's going to cost a little bit of money. We want to look at public-private partnerships. But think about what that means for us. You know, when I was at the headquarters for Kansas City, I asked them this question. I said, really, you can put a heavy train on on top, on a flyover? And they said, yeah. So they took me and they showed me where they'd done that at their headquarters in Kansas City, 5 miles. Now, this will be 9.5 miles or so, but it's still the same concept where you will have trains both ways on top, and they will not block a single street in Laredo. They're not going to be honking their horns, waking up people, the noise pollution. And that means there'll be more trade and more jobs here in Laredo. That's a big project, but if we can get it started, we'll have one of the biggest projects that Laredo has seen here.
Absolutely. And it's one that should, like I said, let's continue making Laredo number one. And that's what needs to happen. And
Yes,
thank
sir.
you for doing that. Congressman, anything else that you see in the near future that you're going to say, you know what, this is what we're going to bring back to Laredo?
Well, we've been working with the TAMU and the Laredo College on making sure that as we work on this relief project, a proposal in DC, it's not only money's going to the cities, to the counties, to the individuals, to the small businesses, but I want to make sure we cover the areas of public schools and higher ed, because as less students are going, or some going online, we got to make sure that funding continues. TAMU has grown tremendously under Pablo Arenas, LC under Dr. Ricardo Solis, So we're working on some of the things with them, but I want to make sure that funding continues with them. And one of the things I'm doing is I'm putting connections from DC, whether it's the Department of Defense to do research at TAMIU, which we got them some money, or another project that we'll talk about that we're working with Laredo College. There's some good things that will be announced in the future, but when you have people like Dr. Pablo Arenas or Dr. Ricardo Solis, or even the superintendents that we have also, they've been very helpful in working as a public-private partnership, and I'm really excited. So there'll be some other announcements coming in. But talking about, if I can close up with this, the Paycheck Protection Program, they're still accepting applications up to August 8th, and we're, the 6th? So we got a couple more days for people to apply. But we're hoping that once we go back to Washington with an agreement, maybe next week, I hope next week, an agreement soon, and then go vote next week, there'll be more money for the small businesses and for the individuals, because again, like you said, we've never seen a pandemic like this in our lifetime. That happened 102 years ago, and they got through it. Mass social distances. The difference between them and now, Paul, they didn't have the technology or the innovation that we have. We have it now. So I feel very confident that we'll get out of this faster than they did 102 years. But it still goes back to wear the masks, practice social distances, wash your hands, all the basic stuff. And then with the new medicine that hopefully the vaccines we'll get out of this faster on that. So with that, Paul, I want to say thank you so much.
No, thank you, and continue making Laredo proud.
Yeah, hope to catch up with you soon. So for right now, stay safe, stay healthy to you and your family, and we'll talk to you very.
And, we'll pass this forward, and thank you once more. Thank you, Congressman.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.
The following political paid advertisements do not reflect the political opinions of the program or its associates. Any political campaign or candidate who wishes to purchase advertising can do so. Advertising is open to all on behalf of Gloves Off.